Thanks for coming. Reading a piece called Excalibur. And my name is Brian Abrams, by the way. My father was skinny the night I left for college. The disease had been working on him for over a year, and his skin, which at one point had been tight around his robust frame, sagged and jiggled under his clothes, but with his clothes on you couldn't notice, thankfully. We smoked a cigar on the back porch, him and I, something we'd done with increasing regularity throughout my senior year. The first was a Dominican church shield called the Excalibur. He gave it to me when I got my letter of denial from the Naval Academy that September. The next one came upon acceptance to Texas A&M, and then there was one when I turned 18, and another to commemorate the coming of the Texas wildflowers. He was sentimental in that way, loved bluebonnets. And then one for graduation, and the last one, the one we're talking about now, the one that was complimented with a dry martini. My dad loved cigars and martinis. Spent a lot of time, he did, on the back porch drinking and smoking, reading the paper too as he looked at the driveway and the neighbor's fence, which was discolored and falling down at that point. Our neighbor was an old man and mostly bedridden. My father was a functioning alcoholic, restricting drinks to weekends and holidays, and the back porch, always the back porch. I don't think I ever saw him drink inside, no matter the weather. The night I left was balmy, as August evenings usually are in Houston. So balmy I wanted to take my shirt off and jump in our pool one last time instead of puffing on smoldering rolled tobacco and sipping a martini that blanched the throat as it went down. I only drank the thing because it was a gift, you see. The only blessing he could give to his only son, which could never come through words. No, my father wasn't much for words, just grunts and snorts and exhalation of smoke for nearly 2 hours, looking across the buckling driveway to the neighbor's fence, which was coming down, as I mentioned. When I got to the nub, I figured that was enough blessing. I stamped the cigar, went inside to goodbye, Mother, then gave my dad a handshake and an awkward side hug, leaving in my oversized Bronco, the one with engine trouble and too little Freon in the air conditioning. The goddamn thing made me nervous every time I drove it, but at 17 I had to have a Bronco, I just had to have it. I just had to. About halfway to College Station, my mother called and said I'd left a stack of what looked like important papers in the bathroom. I considered not doubling back to get them. Mail them to me, Mom, I thought, but it was just a thought, because going back meant another goodbye and another side hug and a handshake, and I'd had enough of that. One is enough. In the Abrams family, one is enough. I ended up turning around, though. Driving back, I didn't know why. Perhaps I'd give my old man another opportunity to say, I'm so damn proud of you, son, and you can do anything you want. I support you unconditionally, to which I'd reply, thank you, Dad, for all you did and didn't do. Which is enough for sons, because young men in America can't express emotion very well. But the closer I got, the more I hoped they'd both be in bed, so I could go directly to the bathroom to get the papers, and once the papers were in hand, I could leave with the simple popping in of my head, and don't get up, another goodbye would be too much, I'll call tomorrow. But as fate would be, went out of the bathroom full of papers, my father, standing in the living room, knees knobby and shaking, flesh-clothed in white cotton briefs, and a thin bandana around his head to keep his hair in place when he slept. And he was crying. My father didn't cry a lot when I was growing up. Hell, the only other time I could remember was when Mom was in such bad shape after open heart surgery, and how could he raise 2 children on his own? Oh, how was he going to do it? I remember his eyes during that time were very red and runny, and this night, too, standing in the living room shaking in his white cotton briefs and little bandana and drunk, I could smell that he'd gone after the martini quite vigorously after I left. I told him that I'd only returned to get the papers in hand, all these papers, and that I needed to be getting on the road because it was already late and I had to be somewhere on campus the next day, and he said okay, and there was a tremor in his voice and one in mine as well, yes, even in mine. I kept wanting him to put on a shirt, too, because I didn't want the last image of my father before I made it a point to stay away from home, to be my old man knobby and shaking in his white cotton briefs, skin saggy and jiggling, skin a sickly, pale. God, he'd gotten so weak and elderly, like our neighbor whose fence was falling down. Do you remember the fence I mentioned, the fence? I couldn't hug him again without going in to give one to my mom also, and to have her grip me hard around the back of the neck, saying, don't you leave me with my husband vanishing before my eyes, your father, whose place you must soon take. Thus I put out my hand as I had done on the back porch, and he shook it, and I told him I'd call. Yes, I'd call tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow morning. Unless something came up, of course, and in that case I'd call the day after tomorrow, yes. He didn't know whether to nod or to stop me and say, God damn it, I'm so sorry. And please don't think me poorly for all those cigars and the martinis and the porch and the newspaper and the buckling driveway and the fence falling down and never mentioning a thing to you about sex or women or money, or when you lose your first job and you have the opportunity to go back to school to learn what you love, but you do not do it. He didn't do that, though. Instead, he just gripped my hand as hard as he could, which wasn't much at all, and let his eyes well up, and also mine, as I called to Mother, "I love you, and I love you, Dad. I'll talk to you soon. Unless something comes up, and in that case it'll be in a little while. You'll understand, won't you?" Thank you.